Coach, how we doing?
Great.
Good.
Awesome. Doing awesome. Life's good.
It is good, except for the
5
traffic
days
around
in.
here, right? Except for trying to get to this building.
That might be the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
of the day.
right? It's crazy.
Took me a roundabout. Had to do the roundabout today to get in here.
It's crazy.
Harbaugh was saying on Pardon My Take podcast that this might be the fastest he's seen a Michigan defensive line. What are your early impressions?
Concur with Coach. You know, I think we're running the ball well. I think we're developing depth. I think that's an ongoing process, but you know, we're certainly getting some flashes there that are exceptional for sure. Aiden Hutchinson, I think is playing really well along with Quiddy. Donovan Jeter, probably the most improved guy that I could speak on behalf would be Carlo Kemp. Stronger, way faster, confident, just body language and the whole deal, leadership, really playing at a high level. So Ben Mason, vastly improved, obviously, as a former running back, you know, fullback, running back, tight end, whatever you want to call him. But we put him into that mix, and we feel good about him. I mentioned Jeter, Carlo, still working our way through a little bit from a health standpoint with Mike Dwumfor, but he's practiced and done well. I think he'll just kind of take off. But, you know, we feel like we got 4 pretty good players inside there, including Mike. Trying to develop some depth there. Mozzie Smith, Chris Hinton as the young guys. So, and Mike Dana. Mike Dana's doing a good job. He certainly has jumped right in, had a really good summer. You know, kudos to Coach Herbert again. He probably owes him a kiss on the lips because he went from 240 to 260, and we're seeing the fruits of that hard work. So, Luigi Villain, healthy, made it through all of spring, and has made it through the first 5 practices and doing some good things. We're starting to see a few things out of Taylor up there as well. So speed-wise, depth-wise, you know, we feel like we're going to be 8 or 9, 10 guys deep.
With the corners, with Ambry limited a little bit, are you worried about the depth there at all?
Am I worried about it? And you're always worried about
Yeah.
it, especially if somebody else goes down. But no, I think you know the general play. Vincent Gray is a player, so that's a real positive. I feel like we just did the flip, you know, because LeVert sat out a bunch in the spring. Well, he's back and playing like LeVert Hill, so that's a real positive. So Vincent, LeVert Hill, Jalen Kelly Powell has just continued to improve, has put himself, you know, in firmly entrenched in the 2 deep. So feel good about that. And you know, Brad Hawkins, we've kind of utilized his coverage ability as well, you know, on the slot some. So we've got ways to go ahead and make our adjustments there. And you know, really happy with the way those guys have performed.
Give an update on Ambry by any chance?
Yeah, moving forward, you know, working on the side, you know, following all the trainer's orders and the doctor's orders, but you know, all systems positive moving forward.
Great.
How quickly do you think he can move back into a major role?
Probably not an answer I can really give you. I'm not equipped to give you. You know, he's in doctor care and all those things, so you know, that's between the trainers and Coach Harbaugh and Ambry. So I'm not really equipped to give you that answer.
And Dwumfor, you mentioned he was a little?
Just a little bit. You know, he practiced the first few days. We sat him up, but we expect him back tomorrow. So there's nothing really major there.
You mentioned depth on the defensive line, you know, losing Chase and Rashawn. How does getting a guy like Mike Dana help kind of the experience of that group of the younger guys moving forward?
You know, when you gain a player of that quality, it always helps. And it takes the pressure off a little bit with, you know, the younger guys, having to force feed them and jam them into a role maybe they're not quite ready for. So, he's a mature guy, he's a tough guy, he's a hard-working guy. So, he's just brought kind of a nice maturity to the group. So, we could put him right in the mix now. You got Aiden, you got Quiddy Pay, and you got Mike Dana right off the get-go. So, that's kind of a nice, three-man deal. Don't forget Uche plays some defensive end, and we're bringing Luigi and Taylor along. So we're gonna we'll have enough guys there. How that thing is all gonna shake out depth-wise and so forth. Really can't give you an answer. We're just 5 practices in.
Don, we've heard a lot about Daxton Hill's speed. How's that trained? I know it's early. How's that trained?
Good, yeah, I think there's, DJ Turner, Daxton Hill, Anthony Solomon, those are 3 really good players. There was one snap yesterday, they were all lined up on one side of the field, kind of in coverage, and I'm like, wow. And then, ball got snapped and guys were moving, and I'm saying, those 3 guys are pretty nifty, so that's, I look at those guys as, real bright stars for the future of Michigan football.
And I know some of these guys are in the NBA, so the personnel are, the NFL, a little different personnel.
Wait a minute, I gotta
That would
say
be
something,
interesting.
speaking of the NFL.
Yes.
Talked to Chase yesterday. Coach Belichick hasn't punched him in the mouth yet, so that's a great thing right there now.
Did you ever punch him in the mouth?
Close. Close.
But obviously some of the guys from your defense last year are now
Hey.
are now in the NFL. But like for a lot of these guys, just with the taste of how last season ended, like are they itching to get back on the field?
Well-
Is there like a redemption thing or?
I'm just gonna tell you how I addressed it with the players. Can I do that?
Yeah.
If you look at our season, regular season, that's all I'm talking about. The first 19 minutes of the regular season were not very good for Michigan defense. The next 10-game stretch was pretty damn good. And then we got 19 minutes left in the Ohio State game, and it's a 7-point game or an 8-point game, 26-19, whatever it is. And the last 17 minutes weren't very good. If we would have just squeezed out the first 19 and the last 19, which is probably the result of, the things that we can control, 5 drives, might have been a historic year. Well, it wasn't, okay? So what are you gonna do about it? You gotta squeeze out the first 19, you gotta squeeze out the last 19. That means mentally you gotta be tougher. That means, from a preparation standpoint, we gotta be better. That means from my standpoint, we have to be better. So, that's really the challenge. But when you think about it for a minute, right? First 19, last 19. And, then where would you have been? So, in the middle, in between all that, this 10-plus games are pretty good football now. So we just got to get ourselves back into that mode and take whatever challenges that we perceive them as individuals and as a group, and make sure that we squeeze out, those negative ends.
What are the
For you-
challenges when you have a lot of these, guys like Josh Ross replacing Devin Bush and some others in those different positions? What challenge is it to get those guys?
Well,
up to
first
that
off,
challenge?
it's not a challenge to coach Josh Ross. He's the brightest linebacker I've been around in a long time. Even when he was injured in spring, this guy knows his stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like you don't have to worry about what kind of a day's work you're going to get out of Josh Ross. I'm going to say this to you: Ross, Cam McGrone, okay, those 2 guys, Glasgow, Devin Gill, and Jordan Anthony. Those 5 guys can play a lot of places in this country. Let me just tell you that, okay? They're very good football players, and I feel like we got 5 guys. This is probably the most depth I've had. Now, we're 5 practices in. Everybody's on their feet practicing. So, when you think about that, let the competition just go. Isn't it a beautiful thing when 5 guys can play 2 positions? So, you're not playing at your best? Sorry, we got a roll here. So, it's a good competition, and really probably one of the greatest linebacker rooms, or, obviously I had all the years coaching DBs, one of the greatest rooms in terms of attention to detail, guys wanting to be good, and improvement. We feel like we got 5 guys that can run there, and every one of them's improved from a year ago through spring going into the fall.
What's the safety group look like right now?
Josh Metellus is playing at an extremely high level. I think giving quality maturity to the group. Him and Brad Hawkins, neck and neck. They're both, they're both in it. Who's one, who's two, who's our best safety, who's our second best? I can't really tell you that. The third safety right now is Jamerick Woods, and he's playing a lot of football for us, and a vastly improved football player. And then you got a bunch of other guys that are in competition. Sammy Foston would be one, Hunter Reynolds would be one. Obviously, Daxton Hill is a guy on the, that's on our radar and has practiced extremely well. But again, he's a true freshman, 5 practices in. But, we're feeling pretty good about the way that the top end of that safety group looks.
Back to squeezing those 19 minutes out. What does that look like for a coach?
Well, we had a guy thrown out of the Notre Dame game early. We had 3 penalties, and we gave up 17 points. And then at the 8-minute mark, or whatever it was, of the second quarter, through the rest of the game, we ended up giving up 7 points and 62 yards. So, obviously, adjustments made, guys settling in, and then adjusting to the speed of the game and so forth, and, gave ourselves a chance, because at that point, at one point there was 17-0, I believe. So, that's what you're searching for, that kind of performance from a Michigan defense, okay? The last part of it, same deal. You're 26-19, all of a sudden, block punt, interception on the 14, they go in and score. That's what we've got to find a way to minimize that damage and hold it to a field goal. Then we give up the jet sweep, and then another interception, lo and behold, the ball's on the 14. You got to find a way to hold that to a field goal. So, I'm not going to keep reliving it. It's really more of a mindset in making sure when the game goes like this, when they go like this year in game 1, that we don't have the same kind of an adjustment process early in the game. And that's really what I'm searching for. And hard work, facing adversity in practice at times, and all those things that go into it really, try to make sure that your guys are settled when adversity strikes.
Don, where do you see Josh Uche fitting in? Can he be an every down type of player for you?
Yeah, he can. For us, the good thing about him is he's, he can do a lot of stuff. And in the NFL, when he finally gets there someday, he'll do a lot of stuff. So, it's the same, it's going to be the same type of a scenario. He can play defensive end. He can play Sam linebacker, and that's really his number one position. And then he's got all the pass rush, scenarios that we utilize him in on third down. Now, I don't know if there's a better substitute pass rusher in the country than this guy. But he's, during the course of this, he's grown and become a very accomplished Sam linebacker. And with the graduation of Noah Furbush, that's one of his major roles as well.